I'm singing you the ballad of a great man of the cloth. His name was Harry Lewis, and he worked for Irving Roth. He died while cutting velvet. On a hot July the 4th, but his cloth goes shining on.
Glory, glory, Harry Lewis. Start show.
I feel like that was some kind of command. That was meant to be like, that's for Kit. Kit's now running the show. Start the show, Kit! Hello and welcome everybody to 44 minutes.
So today we're talking about a series pile. This is Allan Sherman's. It's Allan Sherman's Mother Presents. I guess that's the full title. My Son the Folk Singer. By Allan Sherman.
That's really about all you need to know about his style of comedy.
I'm sorry for holding it below the table, but to be fair, do you really need to look at it? This is horrible. So why don't we like this record, Kevin?
Oh, we don't like it.
That's where we're going.
Okay. Now it all makes sense. No, we don't like it because of a variety of reasons. One of which being that it's really not. It's not that funny, but because it doesn't stand the test of time. It's really meant for a different era of Jews. It's
well, I don't know. No, this was. I remember you told me this was like the #1 record on the Billboard charts. This was nominated for a Grammy for Album of the Year.
Album of the Year, correct.
What year did this come out again?
This one was 1962. This was his first official record with Warner Brothers Records. It literally is... let's get into a little bit of background. Allan Sherman was born in 1924. He spent a lot of time traveling around with his family. They were very Jewish. Just because the concept of
right. But
a lot of what he talks about is based in Jewish stereotyping and tradition
but it almost panders like so much harder than some other Jewish humor. Because I love like Woody Allen and even if we're talking about Gertrude Berg, by the way, new background we've got here that we set up.
We hope you like it.
We hope you like it. But even with Gertrude Berg, like it seemed to be less pandering, than this is. Where this is just literally like, "Ha, I made a Jewish reference. Keep playing a song that's like an awful parody of something."
Yeah.
Keep going on about his background. Sorry, I'm just fuming.
That's okay. The rage
not
is real.
Funny.
The rage is real. He eventually got involved with a show called... what is that show called? The one... What is My Line, is it? What's My Line?
Did we even write it down? No,
I've Got a Secret, that's it.
I've Got a Secret,
What's My Line is another show he was involved with, but I've Got a Secret is a show that he conceptualized and somebody else at the studios basically put together. And instead of paying him for the idea, he became a producer on the show.
I thought it was only for a few episodes.
It lists a few episodes. He was pretty much just associated with it because it was his idea. It was a method of paying him off for it. He was known for doing really strange things with the show. I guess at one point he released 100 rabbits onto the stage as gifts for a group of children who were attending to watch the show, which... In terms of the visual aspect of it, it was not a very entertaining look on the show, but it was the creativity behind it, the idea. And because of that, he built a notoriety of being a very interesting individual. After he began making money through being involved with these programs as a producer or writer, a creator, essentially, he moved into the neighborhood next door to Harpo Marx. Harpo Marx found that he really enjoyed his style of comedy and would invite him over to sing songs, these parody tracks and things. And at which point, George Burns found him at one of these parties, referred somebody from Warner Brothers Records to listen to some of his work, which then started his career in musical comedy. And it was also not his first time. In the 1950s, before I've Got a Secret came out, he had released a track, I can't remember whose track it was. It was a parody of a very modern track, and it did not pick up at all. It was very poorly received, and people didn't really understand the parody concept behind it. So since then, somehow his connections built him into a level of celebrity that put this album and also the two following that have that same style of titling, the My Son, I think it's The Celebrity and My Son something else or other, but they all were #1 on the Billboard from 1962, 1963, and 1964. That's how popular he was. And one of his most popular tracks is the Hello Mudda, Hello Fada, which
is, I think, one of the few ones that still has something. It's at least kind of funny because there's something of a compelling story going on there.
It's actually a decently written song. The parody stylings make sense, and it's tracks like that allowed him to have an influence on a lot of the musical comedy writers that followed him. People like Dr. Demento and Weird Al Yankovic. So it's not to be understated that he had an influence on musical comedy and the music and the comedy world in its entirety, but just the fact that the way he performs and his stylings in themselves are not that good. It was more of a prototype kind of setup that he helped get these things in motion, but he himself is not an individual that's that particularly funny, to us at least.
Right. I don't know. The reason why his stuff isn't funny is that it just lacks jokes. There's no jokes. There's like little to no jokes in any of his material. Like, he just changes the references in certain songs to be like kind of Jewish, and that's it. That's all he really does. He doesn't contribute anything significant to the parody. That's what makes Dr. Demento and Weird Al work is that, for one thing, they take a huge popular song at a time, or well, not necessarily Dr. Demento, but the idea being they're making funny stuff, but they're either going really outlandish with it, or they're creating like some kind of funny narrative with it. There is some of that going on in here. With was it Glory
Harry Lewis?
The Ballad of Harry Lewis.
Oh, okay.
My Zelda. Both kind of work. The Streets of Miami especially doesn't work, though.
That one's confusing. We'll talk more in depth about these as well as cut in some clips of them a little bit so you can hear what we're talking about.
Right.
One of the things that's also new to this episode is that we will be uploading the entirety of the record onto SoundCloud, and we will provide the link to that in the description below.
Right, and you'll be able to go and listen to it and make up your own mind about how not funny Allan Sherman is. He's really not funny.
Or, if you feel so inclined, you can correct us and tell us just that he is a comedy genius. He is the Kanye West of the early 1960s. I had to say that. I had to say
Why?
that.
Oi, my Zelda, my Zelda. My Zelda, she took the money and ran with the tailor. Once again now. My Zelda. My Zelda. My Zelda, she took the money and ran with the tailor. My Zelda, she found her big romance when I broke the zipper in my pants. My Zelda, she took the money and ran with the tailor. Everybody! My Zelda! My Zelda,
Kanye's great though. Kanye might hold up. I don't know. He's held up so far.
That's true. I'd actually be willing to see how that goes.
Yeah. No, really. In 20 years, I'd be interested. I guess I don't know. I'm just not sure how much I understand. Like a lot of the humor doesn't work because it's dated. That's true. But there's plenty of things that I like that are like dated bits of humor that are still funny. Like there's a really great Woody Allen punchline on I don't know which it's. Woody Allen released several records, all of which were compiled into Woody Allen's stand-up comic. There's a track on there where he's talking about, where he says, I was working on a non-fiction version of the Warren Report. Not everyone knows what the Warren Report is. It's the investigation into the assassination of JFK, if I'm getting that correctly. But the idea being that, like, it's the way the punchline is structured. It's the way the joke is structured. It's the way he sort of like tosses off like like a bit of like modern conspiracy theory thing. With it's a good understated joke with a punchline. It's a slight punchline.
It's a one-liner that can slip by anybody who's not paying attention.
Right, but he's working with a real audience and real laughs, and you can tell he's like working it out of them, and he's able to make topical humor at that time still kind of resonate and be funny, despite not really getting the references. So that's plausible. Here, it's just he's just throwing out the reference without any. I don't know.
It's more for the sake of rhyming and the sake of following the song structure so that it can be a direct parody, rather than writing something that's really inherently funny because it's a joke.
Right. But the thing is that they have all these praises from like Jack Benny, Steve Allen, Jerry Lewis, Harpo Marx, Richard Gaiman. Like all these really like funny people are being like, yeah, buy this record, it's hilarious, and I'm just not like Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis is really funny. Jerry Lewis is still funny. This isn't.
These people at one point in their lives looked at this individual and said, he has a model.
I think they're just a friend of his. I think it's just they're doing right by their buddy and like being like, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's a funny record. Well, we'll put a thing on the back. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I think that's what's going on.
Like how it says at like I mentioned previously, that he was invited to parties at Harpo Marx's to perform. That is basically what this record says about it. It has on the back, it says, recorded live at a big expensive Hollywood party, which essentially means then that somebody thought he was funny at a party, invited him to another one, and just set up a recording get-up, and then just let him go.
I don't know. This, I guess it, but like I was saying, or I was thinking this while I was listening to it, and then I said it to Kevin earlier. It's just like, who paid this audience to laugh at these jokes?
Well, I think, again, that ties into the whole Hollywood party thing, is that these people are there because they're connecting with people, they're, doing the thing that Hollywood people do.
I guarantee on some, yeah, actually that makes sense. He's being set up to be like this big thing. Allan Sherman is being sold to us as like a complete package, like funny guys, funny songs, Jewish.
And the people are there because they're connecting with people, and so they're like, oh, we got this entertainer. He's a funny guy. He sings these songs. He comes recommended from Harpo Marx. These people are going to laugh because they don't want to be the person sitting on the side saying, what is going on?
What is going on? I don't understand. He's just inserting the word matzo ball into...
Mammy's little baby loves matzah.
Oh, God, that's horrible. It's really bad. I'm sorry. I'm not going to shield anything about how much I really didn't like this, how much I didn't enjoy it when I first listened to it about a year ago. Because I'd had this record for a while. I had two Allan Sherman records. I had For Swinging Livers Only, which is funny because they've got straws and they're drinking out of a liver. And I had My Son the Folk Singer, and I thought like, oh, like I've listened to Jewish humor records from this time period, even if they're kitschy, they're funny.
We've done that.
Yeah, we did How to Be a Jewish Mother. I have another one that's You Don't Have to Be Jewish, which we should get to at some point, which is just very, very timely, very topical, but still kind of like funny and cute, if not like hilarious, Jewish humor. Whereas this is like, I was saying this earlier, it promises to be punny. It's not punny. There's only, I think it's maybe the Ballad of Harry Lewis at best, maybe my Zelda, but like there aren't really a whole lot of puns.
Yeah,
They're confusing puns with like switching words out to be not what's in the song. Like
one of the things that I came across in my research was that his first record, this one, was a lot more just designed to be a crowd pleaser because, you know, the whole expensive Hollywood party thing.
So maybe we need to review the rest of his records, right?
Maybe. Because the whole thing is that he grew more satirical and poignant with the kinds of puns he was using later in his career. And he continued to produce albums for, I'd say probably another 6 or 7 years after this. None were ever quite as popular as these original 3. His career began to decline in 1964 after the assassination of JFK, and acts that would associate themselves as being very punny or impressionistic on... it's actually a really weird, convoluted connection. Von Meter...
Right, actually,
right
here,
over here.
let me grab this record. This is one that I've had for a while. I don't think I've listened to this one either. But this ties in.
This figure, Von Meter, did this album about the Kennedys, and he was known for doing that kind of impression and using that as part of his act. After the assassination, he refused to go and do it because he felt that it was in poor taste. Somehow, that influenced a lot of other Jewish performers and their acts, and that led to a decline in popularity of people like Allan Sherman. I'm not entirely sure as to how that all connects together in the actual time period. And I will continue this as soon as we come back.
Stay on this image, folks. We'll see you in a sec.
Exactly.
Hello?
Is this 418-9749?
Speaking.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Sarah Jackman, Sarah Jackman, how's by you? How's by you? How's by you the family? How's your sister Emily?
She's nice too.
She's nice too.
Jerry Bachman, so what's new? So what's new?
What you doing, Sarah?
Reading John O'Hara.
He's nice too.
He's nice too.
Sarah.
Von Mead.
Yes, that's where we were. Welcome back.
Von Meter. Von Meter.
Von
Yes.
Meter. I was in the middle of saying that he somehow had an influence on all the other Jewish acts at the time. So people like Allan Sherman suddenly weren't really able to get as much work. So there was decline in his record sales, in his association with film projects, TV projects. And it wasn't again until 1965 when he released an autobiography that he kind of became a celebrity for the sake of celebrity. He began doing more interviews. He served as a guest host on The Tonight Show. It kind of gave a little extra boost to his career, but in the end, it really wasn't enough to sustain him. Those records still never picked up after that. He had some involvement with other people's records. He was a producer, I think, on Bill Cosby's first 3 records, which is something we're probably going to come back to on a later episode because that needs a whole separate discussion.
Yeah, it does.
But in the end, he actually ended up, I think, dying essentially penniless. He was on an unemployment until he died of emphysema in 1973.
Interesting point to that. I didn't know this was plausible. I guess it is. Maybe I just need to know more about this. It wasn't because of smoking. It was just because of drinking and eating.
Yes.
Whatever it was, it caused him to develop like lung disease
And diabetes.
and diabetes.
The key element there, somehow the diabetes played into a lot of this. And diabetes does, and we're going to really get medical for a second, diabetes does influence your ability to heal.
I see.
And so there may have been some other reason for developing emphysema, and then that kept it from doing it.
I guess it makes more sense just because diabetes is one of those conditions where if I may be getting this entirely wrong, but like if you get like marginally sick in some other way, it can get exponentially worse.
Exactly.
Your body doesn't handle it properly, which makes sense. It might have even just been like a minor cold or something like that spiraled out of control.
Exactly.
But that is especially sad. I don't know.
Yeah, he went from being a very popular figure in a number of different ways, and a very short career in total. He's basically like mid-50s through mid-60s, and every component of his career happened during that time, and by the time he passed away, he had nothing left.
Yeah. But before we get to the record breakdown, I just want to bring up a point. You said something earlier I thought that was interesting, where you were talking about how he was a celebrity for celebrity's sake. When you were talking about his autobiography a second ago. And it's just like, I just wanted to bring that up because I think it sort of fights that point that a lot of people try to look at, like the sort of, Kim Kardashian, Paris Hilton. Well, admittedly, he'd been doing stuff within his industry, but
he had a career before.
But the idea of like celebrity for celebrity's sake has always been around. Like, it's not like a new problem. I mean,
there are always people that are just in the public eye because they've essentially just enforced themselves to be.
Right.
Money just gives people a reason to pay attention to you.
Right.
Look at the royal families.
The royal families. Well, to be fair, I mean, that's the other reason they're still. All right, so we're going to go song by song here, starting with the Ballad of Harry Lewis, which may be one of the few ones where it's actually like, oh, okay, there's an interesting, witty piece of writing here if it took us a while to be able to dig through and get it.
Yeah, there's an actual narrative of an individual who's working at a textile mill of some sort. He works for somebody named Ira Roth, and he dies in a fire while working on Independence Day.
Something. Yeah, no. Well, and the implication being, it's like, he's a Jew. He works on the holidays that aren't important to him or his people. It's being Jewish. I get like some of this, but it plays into a lot. This is the cultural context we might not understand. Is that there was a big presence of Jewish workers in textile mills.
In the clothing industry in general.
Yeah,
and it's interesting that's actually almost the mainstay of all of his Jewish references throughout the entire record, is they have to do with textile, clothing, things of that nature. Tailoring.
Jump down, spin around, pick a dress of cotton, which I almost feel like we can talk about that song now and get it out of the way. It's on the second side.
Yeah, there's a number of tracks that are almost not even worth mentioning.
It's about buying an outfit. He says, jump down, spin around, pick a dress of cotton over and over again. Talks about buying shirts.
It's about tailoring them. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these we may not even put a clip in because they aren't worth the time. They're up to you to make that decision when you go and find it on SoundCloud if you really want to listen to it.
This is the first time, I think, like, in a more earnest way, neither of us even, like, kind of, like, it was just a slog. It was just really difficult to get through.
It almost started as an anger of, oh, I gotta listen to this and we have to do it for the episode, to an apathy of, like, we are telling you. It's like, don't even bother with that one. It's the true opposite of hate and rage. It's apathy. There's no passion there.
Okay, but Ballad of Harry Lewis at least has some interesting like cultural context and some grounding. Might be worth listening to on its own for that.
Okay, yes,
yeah.
It is a reference to The Grapes of Wrath, which was very popular at the time.
Well, it makes a reference to the Grapes of Wrath, which is drapes. Yeah. It says Drapes of Wrath.
Drapes of Roth.
Drapes
since
of Roth,
the owner.
Right.
But I think there's the underlying concept too of like exploited workers, and on top of the Jewish side of it, but also
right.
Somebody's working, regardless of the situation because they have to.
I at least understand why people would be laughing here. Whereas Shake Your Hands with Uncle Max, which is the next one that follows, is just, I don't know, your family's here. Shake hands and say hi to all of your family.
It's a lot of names. That's all.
And they repeat this exact same joke in Sarah Jackman, which is how side 2 starts. Is it Sarah Jackman? That's how he says it?
Because it's to the tune of
Farajaka. No, we're not. No,
yeah.
But yeah, so it's the same joke repeated a couple times. Sarah Jackman is, he calls up Sarah Jackman on the phone, and They ask about each other's relatives. How is everybody doing? And it gets really fucking annoying really fast.
Because it's also done in the harmony of Bergerac, where you have somebody speaking, one line previous, and it rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls. Oh man. Or as you can say, oh boy.
I don't even. What was Sir Greenbaum's Madrigal, which is like, I don't know. It's Jews in the Middle Ages.
I really don't know. Again, skip it, please.
The problem is that you like people are laughing and you just can't find the jokes. You just can't find what's funny. It's like, I get it. He has like a Jewish name. He talks about something Jewish, and people are like dying laughing as if that was the best thing. It's just like that doesn't even represent to me like
out of cultural context. It doesn't hold up.
And it's just like, I don't know if this is like a Jewish thing of an older generation, but it's like at the end of the day, we've still found Jewish humor records of the same time period to be riotously funny.
Yeah.
If not mildly funny. Here, there's just nothing to hang your hat on.
This is known as the Ballad of Old Boy.
We'd like to know what you think.
Oh boy.
What's your opinion of Mink?
Oh boy.
Thunderbirds and Cadillacs.
Oh boy.
April 15th income tax.
Oh boy.
Winter in Miami Beach.
Oh boy.
Itching where you cannot reach.
Oh boy.
Somebody scratching your...
Exactly. And when I say cultural context, I mean the cultural context of being in a big Hollywood party with some performer from down the street.
I think it's what we need to do.
We need to stage this right now. We gotta see if this works.
We need to stage a big Hollywood party from the 60s. My Zelda, which I think we're actually going to play on as the opener for this one, because it's one of the few things where they at least picked us like a calypso kind of thing that was...
It's a very catchy tune that at least gets your attention, and again references textile industry and everything, but at least it has some merit to the actual flow of the song.
But there's something at least funny to it. It's like Zelda. And then it's what's the lyric? It's basically like his woman leaves him for his tailor. Is the whole shtick, but like.
Did something to his pride. He made his lapel 2 extra inches
wide, or something like that. But it works out. There's at least something to hang your hat on. It's enjoyable to listen to because there's something going on for it that you're like, okay, I can at least like bop my head to this and move around. It's not terrible. Streets of Miami. Again, the joke just seems to be that they're Jews. There's nothing. I don't know, it's about Jews in Florida.
It kind of references the old, not just Old West, but old Western music, that there's a little bit of a dialogue.
But I think it's also something about old Jews going to Florida, too.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
There's a lot of references in there that just don't really matter that much.
Yeah, no, but basically they make a cowboy ballad, but instead of like cowboys, it's...
And I'll admit, like, I'm not a fan of country music, but I like traditional country Western ballads because they're interesting.
This is like a folk country ballad. Yeah, I know.
But this is really not well done.
But again, it's where are the jokes? The punchline should never just be reference. I mean, some people can get away with that, but even like people who are famous for it, like a Family Guy creator, Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
Seth MacFarlane builds jokes around those references. Sometimes, up until the later seasons of the show. For those first 3 seasons, I did a good job. He's still funny. I still think he's funny.
And that's what counts.
So Sarah Jackman, Jump Down, Spin Around, Pick a Dress of Cotton, we've already
Then there's Seltzer Boy that you seem to enjoy.
I kind of like, just because of like it's enough of a stretch and he's doing something weird with it, but there's something I read about this on the Wikipedia page where it was one of those ones where he got quite a bit of trouble here and there for using songs that he thought were in public domain but weren't. This was a case of that, where Seltzer Boy is based off of a song called Water Boy, which I don't think I've ever heard.
Nope.
Never heard of it. Missing that, but I don't know. I liked it, but again,
That's
there's
a good point to put in one of those little boxes.
one of those little boxes.
Once we can do the research after. Wonderful. Good thing we're referencing that on film.
Yeah, and I didn't even bring this up beforehand. It was just something I remembered while we were here. Oh boy.
Oh boy. That has one of the few lines that actually made me crack up, and that was, how do you feel about Sir Arthur Conan and Doyle? And he says, both great. It's a decent one-liner compared to everything
that's
else.
at least there's some wordplay or like a pun.
And we've heard that joke before, right? In other things.
But it's like, oh boy, for the most part, is just they say a thing and he responds like an old Jewish man. Oh boy.
In a variety of tones to express his emotion.
Oh boy. It's that is actually the worst track on here.
I wouldn't necessarily go
Really?
so far as to say for me.
Well,
but I mean,
what is it for you?
I am really, really against the Sarah Jackman. Like I think
because it's just it's annoying.
It's a hard song to swallow. Because it's just
it's one because you heard the joke earlier too. Just because.
I mean,
Fair Shock is not a great tune anyway.
Yeah, there are a number of these that just like I couldn't care less about. Like take it or leave it. Like Sarah Jackman was just like it was just to open the B side with that too was like oh my god.
Also,
why?
the way he's saying Sarah Jackman is really annoying. His voice is annoying.
It is spelled Jackman as well, but because he needs to fit it to the song, it's now Jackman. And then finally, there's Sticks and Stones, which is basically
it's a medley.
It's a medley of a bunch of different public domain songs, and it's not bad for a closer. It's fine. It makes some interesting references here and there.
I think we're being kind because we I don't know. You do feel bad just like continuously shitting on a thing, but it's sort of like.
By the end of it, you're like, well, it has some merit.
It has some merit. There's something about it that's
at least
not
all
terrible,
the medleys
I
are
guess.
short.
I like my Zelda, I guess, and the medleys are short, but it's...
The overall running time of the album is like just under 40 minutes, so it's not
I think it's like
18
minutes on each side or something like that.
Yeah.
It's close to that. It's not great. It's not great, and I hate the fact that this influences so many artists that I actually enjoy. I get
Well, like when you have people like Harpo Marx saying, don't have a party without Allan Sherman or this album, I'm buying 6 of them. You have Jerry Lewis who says, a must for people who love to laugh. He really meant something to these people. And
I guess. I think he was just their bud.
But there's a difference between, like, at least Steve Allen just says, like, hilarious. Like one word. You could have a one-word review, just be like, great. It's like, funny. But the fact that...
That's how they advertise shitty movies, too.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that, like, some of these people actually
hilarious.
took the side...
Fox 6, Madison. No, sorry.
The fact that some of these people actually had more to say than that is a sign that there's actually something of value to the record. And I like run out of things to say because it's like I can't express enough how much I don't care.
It feels everything about this way this record is built.
There.
Well, I guess we have to. I guess final words. Everything about the way this thing's structured feels like you're supposed to listen to this and laugh. Isn't this a riot? You're having fun. Why aren't you laughing like the people who were laughing in the record?
Don't you love Allan Sherman?
Don't you love Allan Sherman?
And after obviously a few years, because the public at the time agreed with us,
a shit.
Nobody cared. Nobody cared.
And he died relatively poor. And I don't know. I mean, if he's part of the reason that Dr. Demento and Weird Al.
He plays a critical role in the formation of modern musical comedy. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sit through it.
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a good comparison.
Like, I almost made a comparison to the movie Rocky, but the thing is, Rocky's at least an enjoyable movie. I mean, if it doesn't hold up against the sports movies that it influenced, I'm gonna get some shit for that, and I don't care.
Please, I want to hear this. I want to hear this. I really do.
But in that same way where it's just like this might be the genesis of all this, but it's just like it doesn't make it.
It doesn't make it as a standalone record any better.
Right.
That's really I think about the best ending point we can go with on that.
All right, I guess.
Thank you for staying with us on this one.
Thank you for staying with us. You don't have to listen to it. I guess listen to it for context. Listen to it because
it'll give you a better opinion on what we're saying, and if you completely disagree with us, or if you've listened to Allan Sherman for a long time and you really like his stuff, let us know why. Because maybe it's just a product of our generation.
Right.
Maybe we have a different sense of comedy. But I would like to understand what makes it funny to you then. Because I'm not going to sit here and talk down on it because I think empirically across all fronts it is a terrible thing. It's just that I think that it's not for us.
It's a piece of shit.
And with that, that was 44 minutes. We'll see you on the flip side. Bye!
And that's the end of the episode.
Thank you very much for sticking around and watching the whole thing.
Like, subscribe, comment, click down below the thingy.
Exactly, and then click the other thing for the other thingy.
And then watch our other videos, and then watch the next video, and watch the last video, so watch our things.
We promise they're very similar, but very enjoyable.
Have a good one. Bye.
That's all, brother, that's all.